Hey there, and welcome to another Change Catalyst conversation where we talk about anything and everything that has to do with building cohesive, vision-driven teams that make sustainable change happen, even when change seems impossible. I'm Casey Watts, Impact Coach and Consultant, and the host of this show. What I know from experience is that making change happen can be overwhelming and downright hard. Sometimes as an instructional leader, you survey your organization from a bird's eye view, and it can seem as though you're witnessing an anthill that's been knocked down and ants are scattering everywhere. No one has a collective understanding of why change should happen or what change to begin first. You notice false starts again and again because a solid action plan hasn't been crafted, or you're met with resistance because you don't know how to motivate such complex people. The thing about ants, though, is that they have one common goal, and that is to collectively rebuild one solid anthill. But this doesn't always happen for schools. You see, we can say as much as we want that Tier 1 instruction needs to happen, or that a curriculum needs to be implemented with fidelity, or that PLCs need to be collaborative and support student learning. But these broad, ambiguous goals do nothing to help teachers and staff build capacity and actually make change happen. And that leads to schools remaining in a cycle of stagnancy, experiencing the same problems and ineffectively repeating the same initiatives again and again. This leads to low morale, burnout, high turnover, and it leaves our students to suffer most. But if instructional leaders can get really clear on a narrowed instructional focus and script the critical moves for people, then we can make collective efficacy, a united colony of educators, if you will, possible. My goal is to make cohesive, vision-driven school teams a possibility. I help school leaders zoom out to cast vision and then zoom back in to script critical moves that help teams collectively go farther, faster, and better, even when change seems impossible. One way I do this is by coaching leaders through the Clarity Cycle framework, a cycle for building sustainable capacity through intentional clarity processes. Are you ready to feel great about exactly where you and your campus are headed? And are you ready to know exactly how you're going to get there? If so, you're going to want to stop right now and head to catchingupwithcasey.com to learn more about the Clarity Cycle framework, and then come back to catch up on this episode. It'll still be here when you get back. Okay, now that you are primed for thinking about cohesive, vision-driven teams that make change happen, let's jump into this week's Change Catalyst conversation. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Sunday. We're having another exciting conversation all about how to solve problems. And I have sent out some emails about this episode. I have posted on social media about this episode with the little phrase, "You got problems, yo, I'll solve them." Because that's what we're thinking about. We're thinking about how to solve the problems, and I can't resist throwing a little bit of vanilla ice in there, right? So if you are here with us live tonight, I want to see that you are here. Post in the comments who you are, where you're coming from, and what brings you to this episode. Now, this episode specifically is about the 10-5-5 protocol of getting to the root cause of school challenges or problems. And you better believe we have schools that are full of problems. It's always been the case. It always will be the case, right? That's a whole reason we are in existence in education, is because we solve problems. And I'm really excited to share with you this 10-5-5 protocol. And I want to walk you through how tonight's session is going to go. But first, I want you to know that if you can't stay on the full time, remember that this episode is actually going to be on YouTube from here until forever from now on. And it is also on my podcast. So I take these videos and transition them straight to the podcast. You can find the podcast, Catching Up with Casey, on iTunes or on Spotify. So this episode will still be in existence after this live session tonight. But if you're here, I really would love for you to interact. And tonight you're going to get a chance to really interact with me in the comments, because I'm going to be asking you your thoughts as we go through the 10-5-5 protocol. So let me just tell you first what tonight's going to look like. So I'm going to explain this whole protocol with you. And then we are going to go through the protocol together to think about a challenge that schools face. And it's going to be a typical challenge, one that I hear a lot of instructional leaders share about. And then we're going to wrap up with finding a way for you to continue working through this on your own. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge as we exit this live session. Okay. So let me start by telling you about some scenarios that happen in real life where we have what we call Band-Aid fixes or quick fixes. Now, it happens all the time in all kinds of situations, both in your personal life and in your work life. Now, let me tell you a little bit about this problem that we've experienced in our personal life here in this house. We've been in this new house that we bought about 1.5 years ago. We bought it in November. And so it was pretty cool weather. And then it got to springtime, summertime, started heating up. And I do live in Texas. So when I say heating up, I truly mean heating up. And I noticed that I started to see wasps coming out of thin air, it seemed like. There were tons of them on the front porch, and we also noticed a lot of them in our house, which is really kind of a bummer, right? And so our initial reaction to that was to spray all of the nests that we could find on the front porch with wasp spray, like cans and cans of wasp spray, shooting them down and hoping that they wouldn't come back. But inevitably, the wasps kept returning. Even in our house, like we didn't want to spray wasp spray in the house because that leaves stains, but we had our fly swatters ready. And if we could spray them down, that's exactly what we did. But of course, they kept coming back again and again because what we were doing was only a Band-Aid quick fix. It wasn't solving the real problem. So we have to start asking, what is the real problem here? Is the real problem that we have wasps, or is the real problem that we're not finding where they're getting in at, where they're coming from? And that really was the real problem. And until we could identify what the real problem was, what the real cause was, we couldn't rectify the unfavorable situation that we were in. So what we finally ended up doing was deciding, okay, let's find all of these crevices where they're coming in, and we know we need to patch those holes. So that's kind of what happens when we're dealing with school challengers or school problems. We often see these problems arise, and because of a limited amount of either resources or time, or because our to-do lists are inundated with other things, we patch a Band-Aid on things in hopes of solving the problem. But our quick Band-Aid fixes rarely actually solve the problem. What happens is we solve the problem, or we believe that we solve the problem for a short period of time, but our solutions are not long-standing. And of course, we see those problems arise again and again. Now, I want to take you to the words of the authors of the Handbook for Smart School Teams and share exactly what they've written in their book about understanding more than just the surface level problems. Here's what they say. Do you know the secret to finding effective solutions? You have to know specifically what problem it is you're trying to solve. A task that's harder than it sounds. Just think about all the problems in your school that have been solved over and over and over again. Obviously, the solutions put in place had little effect on the real cause of the problems. Do you know the secret to finding solutions that address the real causes of a problem? You have to dig beneath the surface symptoms of that problem to uncover the root causes. And that, my friends, is exactly what we are going to consider tonight. So I'm going to take you through the 10-5-5 protocol for identifying the root cause of a broader problem. Now, this 10-5-5 protocol has been mentioned by multiple different experts and authors. Where it originated from, I'm really honestly not quite sure. But I want to tell you that when I recently used this 10-5-5 protocol, it was magnificent in the impact that it had on not only us as educators in our conversations that we had because of this work we were doing together, but it also provided us a really clear approach to solving the problem. So here's what I want us to think about. I want you to think about all of the different problems that you might solve in school. I'm going to list out just a few, but if you're here with us, go ahead and type in the comments at least one school challenge or school problem that you might notice. So an example could be maybe students' math scores on standardized testing have consistently decreased over several years. Or it could be that when you look at evaluation data of teachers, that more and more teachers are falling into the level of not exceptional, but there's another one behind that, exceptional, proficient, or below proficient in their evaluations. Or you might notice that students' stamina is lacking. You might even notice that there's a lack of tier 1 instruction happening in the classroom. One problem could be that teachers are continuously using slides to teach instead of teaching the child. So they're teaching the stuff and not the student. Or you might notice that I see classroom management is inconsistent from class to class. Absolutely. PLCs is another problem. Like PLCs are not valuable to teachers, or they lack value during the PLC time. So that's kind of what we're thinking about here. And a great way to look at these problems is to be analyzing data. So you have to decide, what data am I going to analyze and how am I going to take away a problem statement from that data? There are multiple different sources of data that you could pull from. And the sky's the limit, though, right? Like, you could pull from assessment data. Absolutely. That's a pretty common one. But you also could pull from survey data. You could pull from attendance data. You could pull from conversation data. So there are multiple different avenues of data that you could pull from. Lack of student engagement is what I'm seeing in the comments. Numerous behavioral reports. Yes, all of these are problems that we might want to approach as instructional leaders and solve them. And we want to solve them in more than just a quick fix approach or Band-Aid fix. So let's talk about this 10-5-5 protocol. And I'm going to go through these different steps with you. And then again, like I said earlier, I'm going to show you what this looks like in action. So here's what you're going to start with. You're going to construct a problem statement that is supported by that objective data. What is the problem statement based on the data? And it does need to be objective data, not subjective data, right? Like, we can look at our school and come up with a problem statement off the top of our head just by what we see every day and what we experience, but we need to be thinking about the objective data and not just our own experiences, because your own experiences come with emotions tied to them. So you have to be really careful about that. So construct a problem statement that is supported by objective data. Then you are going to list 10 possible reasons why the problem might be occurring. And you are just going to list whatever comes to mind. List 10 possible reasons why the problem might be occurring. Then you are going to list 5 more possible reasons why the problem might be occurring. And guess what? Next, you're going to list 5 more reasons why the problem might be occurring. So by the end of your brainstorming session, you should have listed 20 different possible reasons why the problem might be occurring. And yes, absolutely, some of these reasons may be similar to other reasons, and that's okay. Because as you're creating this list, you're starting to probably recognize some patterns and consistencies throughout the different possible reasons that you are listing. And that's going to help you to decide how you're going to approach the problem. So finally, after you've listed the 20 possible reasons why the problem might be occurring, the 10, then the 5 more, and then the 5 more, you are going to analyze that list of 20 possible reasons that the problem might be occurring. So you're just reading through it and you're thinking about a few different things. You're thinking, again, what are patterns and consistencies that I'm noticing? You're also thinking about why certain things are popping up again and again. And what I mean by that is, what is the terminology that's popping up again and again? So you might notice tonight as I'm going through creating a list of possible reasons for the problem I'll be solving, I use the word lack again and again. So that's something to be cognizant of. And you also might think as you're creating this list, ooh, I'm using this term again and again. Why don't I switch it up? The only reason you might want to do that and switch up your language is so that you can see if there's a shift in the reason that you're writing down. So then after you've gone through and analyzed these 20 possible reasons why the problem might be occurring, you are going to do 3 different things. You're going to look at that list and you're going to either highlight, strike through, or asterisk beside those items. And here's what you're highlighting. You're highlighting any reason that is within your control directly. Any reason that is directly within your control. You are going to strike through any of the reasons that you listed that are completely outside of your control. And then you're going to put an asterisk next to any of the reasons that you've listed that you have an influence over. So this is something that can be controlled. This is out of our control. This is something that can be influenced. All right. So I've gone through, it's a pretty simple protocol, right? Like super simple, but it's really interesting how much can come from this protocol. Because you may be thinking it's so difficult to list 20 reasons. I can't even imagine listing 20 reasons for this one problem. But you will notice things as you're listing those reasons. And it's even more interesting when you get to the point where you're ready to highlight, strike through, and put an asterisk next to those different problems to decide, or reasons to decide what can I control, what can I not control. So are you ready? Give me a thumbs up if you are ready to take a look at what this looks like in action. I'm actually going to be sharing my screen and showing you this 10-5-5 protocol. And I want you in the comments also, as I'm going through this, to share your own thoughts. So if some reasons pop up in your mind for the problem statement that I have listed, I want you to jot them in the comments. And what I will do is try to add them to the list. Okay, so here we go. The 10-5-5 protocol, and here is my problem statement. The problem is that the data shows that PLCs are not valued by or valuable to teachers and staff. This problem statement comes from teacher surveys and feedback meetings. And this is what the data shows, that PLCs are not valued by or valuable to teachers and staff. And so what I want to do is start listing out all of the different reasons that this problem could be in existence. All right, so here we go. And if you have some ideas, please, please, please put them in the comments and I will add that to the list. And you might even just give me like a thumbs up or a heart emoji if you're seeing some things that are similar to what you're thinking. So here we go. One reason could be lack of motivation. I'm seeing Melissa saying things don't get done during PLCs. Okay, absolutely. Or during meetings. Yep, that was actually one of the ones that I had listed as well. Um, Limited effective communication. And I'm just going to 10 right now. That's what I'm doing. One person talks too much. Yes. I'm going to add to that. Some people don't get a chance to talk. They don't see the value. Yes. They don't understand the value. And remember, just going to 10, that's what I'm going to. I'm going to add unclear expectations could be a reason. Unclear expectations. Let's see. I'm going to add to, in addition to unclear expectations, a misunderstanding of PLCs. I also was thinking about new teachers too, Jonna. So new teachers are too overwhelmed. I'm going to leave it at that. We could also say that new teachers lack, I'm going to say undergrad teaching, or maybe undergrad classes that teach about teamwork. Okay, so we've gone through 10. And so you're probably thinking, wow, that wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. It's not. Once you get going, man, the reasons just come out of nowhere. There's one after the other. So we have 10 different reasons that this problem could be in existence. What I want to do now is just take a quick moment to think about patterns and consistencies. If you are noticing patterns and consistencies already, be sure to put that in the comments. I'm sure that we all are seeing some similarities. So I'm seeing a lot about like unclear expectations, misunderstanding, communication, which really has a lot to do with their misunderstanding of PLCs, or even new teachers lacking in understanding. Okay, so I'm ready to go on to my next 10, or sorry, my next 5. Next 5 would be, I'm going to write, let's see, teacher attendance. Teacher attendance. So teachers aren't showing up to work, so they miss the PLC time. No instructional coaches to model effective PLCs. If you're thinking about more, guys, just put them in the comments and I'll try to add it. PLC times used for other things. That happens so often. Teacher turnover. So when we experience teacher turnover, then we have teams that struggle to work together. They have to get to know each other all over again. And then this is my 5th one, lack of accountability. I'm going to write it. Lack of accountability. Yes. Okay. So let's think about what we have now. We've got 5 more. And I'm just reading through them on my own, thinking about what are the patterns that I'm noticing here. And I'm already starting to consider what am I going to be highlighting, striking through, and putting an asterisk next to. I'm ready for my last 5. I'm just going to knock it out while I'm going hot on my heels about this. So I'm going to say lack of consistency between teams or individuals. Maybe lots of time for chatting, but not deep conversation. Donna said lack of principal and administrator. I'm going to see. Yes, admin leadership in messaging about PLCs. Yes. About PLCs. Okay. And yeah, oh my gosh, I can't believe we only have 2 more to go. And this is going to be easy. I'm going to say, let's see, kind of in relation to lack of principal messaging, limited follow through. And that could be limited follow through in walkthroughs or limited follow through in what we're going to do after we've finished this PLC time. And then my last one, PLC topics change from week to week. All right. 20 things. And I actually probably could go on, right? But I want to leave it at 20 because if I've gotten to 20, chances are I'm going to start repeating myself if I continue on. Chances are I've probably already repeated myself just a little bit in the phrasing of some of these. So let's get to the fun part now of highlighting, striking through, and putting an asterisk next to the different reasons that we have control over, that we don't have control over, and what we have an influence over. All right, so here we go. Lack of motivation. I think that is something that we probably don't necessarily have control over. It doesn't necessarily, I don't necessarily believe that I don't have any control over it, but I do believe that it is something that I can influence. So what I'm going to do is just put an asterisk next to that. Things don't get done during PLCs. Guess what? It depends on where you are in instructional leadership, but if you are an instructional leader who is facilitating PLCs or who is responsible in supporting the leading of PLCs, or you are an administrator, you have direct control over this. So I'm going to highlight it. Limited effective communication. So we cannot necessarily control this, but it's not out of our control. I'm going to say it's something that we absolutely can influence. One person talks too much. Now, you guys may be thinking something different than I am, and that's completely okay. That's actually great because ideally, you're going to be doing this protocol with a team of other people, or at least with one other partner. And so you'll be able to talk through, like, is this something that we do have control over or not? And can we influence it? And in what ways can we influence it? I'm going to say that this isn't something I have direct control over. But I am going to say that it's something that I can influence. Some people don't get a chance to talk. Oh, man, I absolutely have control over that. And here's why I believe that I have control over that. Because as an instructional leader, I know that I can set norms in place and I can follow through with holding those norms in place and holding people accountable for getting a chance to talk. Everyone should have a space and the safety to talk. So I'm going to say I do have direct control over that. They don't understand the value. Teachers don't understand the value. Guess what? I have control over that. And it is actually my responsibility to help teachers understand the value of PLCs. And it is also my job to ensure that they have mastery experiences. So I'm going to say yes. Unclear expectations. I have complete control over that. I can clear up the expectations. Misunderstanding of PLCs. Direct control over that. New teachers are too overwhelmed. I don't necessarily have direct control over that because when we think about overwhelm, that is a really personal thing and different people are overwhelmed for different reasons. So I'm going to say I can influence that, but I don't have direct control over it. New teachers lack undergrad classes that teach about teamwork. I do not have any control over what is taught to them in undergraduate school. So what I'm going to do is strike through this. If I could find my strike through, but I can't. So maybe I'm just going to underline it. Is that okay? You guys are okay with that. Teacher attendance. It's not something that I can directly control. It's not necessarily completely out of my control, but I believe that I can influence that by creating a positive environment where they want to be in attendance. So I'm going to put an asterisk next to that. No instructional coaches to model. This is a tricky one because it depends on your situation. It could be a situation that you do have direct control over, or it could be a situation where you have no direct control over that. So what I'm going to do is just put a strike through that, and for our purposes, and because I can't find the strike through, what I'm going to do is underline it and say I don't have any direct control over that. I can possibly influence that coaches have a role in modeling the facilitation of PLCs, but I cannot directly control it. Okay, so PLC times used for other things. I can control that by putting some structures in place. Teacher turnover, when we have teams that struggle to work together. I can't necessarily control that. It's not completely out of my control. I can influence that. So I'm going to put an asterisk next to it. Lack of accountability. I can control that as an instructional leader. Lack of consistency between teams and individuals. I can control that. Lots of time for chatting, but not deep conversation. Yep, that can be within my control. Lack of principal and administrators in messaging about PLCs. I don't know that I can necessarily control that, but I have some influence over it. Limited follow through. Again, I cannot control what the administrators do, but I can have an influence over that. PLC topics change from week to week. We can have control over that. So as we finish this up, you'll notice there are a lot of things that we have direct control over and a lot of things that we can influence. And then there are just a couple of things on this list directly that we cannot influence or have control over at all. So what I want to do now is look through everything that is highlighted. I don't want to necessarily consider what I cannot control, and it doesn't really make sense right now to focus on what I just have an influence over. What I want to really focus on are all of the things that are highlighted, and that's where I want to start deciding, okay, if these are the things that we have direct control over, then what is it we can put in place to try to potentially solve this problem? So we've said, I have control over these things. Things don't get done during PLCs. Some people don't get a chance to talk. They don't understand the value, unclear expectation, misunderstandings of PLCs. PLC times are used for other things, lack of accountability, lack of consistency between teams or individuals, lots of time for chatting, but not deep conversation. And finally, PLC topics change from week to week. I wonder, if I asked you what you noticed about the similarities in some of these, would you be able to identify it? What are you noticing is a similarity? I would love to see that in the comments. What are you seeing trending here? I'm going to go ahead and share with you one of the things that's trending that I'm noticing is expectations or just clarity around what is a PLC. So I know that we need to gain clarity. All of our teachers need to gain clarity around PLCs. And then it also looks like we need structures. We need structures to help them to have effective PLC times together. Those are the two things that I am thinking are trending and two approaches to solving the deeper problem: clarity and structures. So I know now that when I go in to solve the problem, or when I go in to create a statement, a solution statement, it should directly correlate to the problem, and it should directly mirror all of these things that we have highlighted that we said we can control. And guess what? I can control helping people to gain clarity around PLCs. I can control people implementing structures for PLCs. Okay, so give me a thumbs up if you're thinking, okay, yeah, it's making sense how this can help you to identify the root cause of a problem and can help you then identify how to approach that problem. I have all of these steps listed out in this document titled the 10-5-5 Protocol. It takes you through everything that I've just shared with you tonight. If you want this document or this graphic to print out for your own purposes and try to utilize it for a problem that you know is happening on your campus or in your district, I want you to type in the comments, send me more, or send me the document, graphic, whatever you want to say. But tell me that. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to email it to you so that you have a copy of it and you can use it for your own problems. Now, that's where I want to ask you tonight what was most useful for you here. And I also want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to think about, before you leave this session, what is a problem that you know you can try this out with? What is a problem that you know you can try this out with? It could be a culture problem. It could be a student accountability problem. It could be a student, an academic success problem. It could be a team problem. It really could. It could even be a logistical problem as far as school functions go. So, what is the problem that you are going to solve using this 10-5-5 protocol so that you can approach it without a Band-Aid or quick fix? Okay? You should have that in mind. Now, here's the other thing that I want to share with you. Tonight, I shared all about the PLC problem, right? And we thought about what are the solutions to these ineffective PLCs. And one of the things that I came to realize after doing the 10-5-5 protocol is that structures, consistency, clarity need to be in place for people to gain value in PLCs. And so I'm excited also to share with you that I am doing a PLC Reset Marco Polo Sharecast to share about 4 tips and strategies that you can use to either reset or completely start PLCs from scratch. Okay, so all you have to do is go to bit.ly/PLC reset, and you're going to get information about this Marco Polo Sharecast that's completely free. You're going to watch these different videos that I post. It all starts July 14th. And as you're watching these, you're going to be thinking about how it directly correlates to this 10-5-5 protocol that we used tonight. Okay, guys, that brings us to the end of tonight's episode. I hope to see you in my inbox. I hope to see you saying, I want more, want to see more, want to learn more, or I want the 10-5-5 protocol. And I also hope to see you joining the PLC Reset Sharecast. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to hear from you soon. We'll see you guys later. Hey guys, I want to give a huge shout out to you for tuning into today's Change Catalyst conversation. I would love for you to do me 2 solid favors. Number 1, if you have enjoyed this or any other Change Catalyst conversation, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I've got a lot of great content and guests coming up, and I don't want you to miss any of it. Number 2, if you are thinking of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this show, share it with them. The only way to make change happen is through a multiplier effect. And you can be a multiplier by sharing this show. Until next time, I want you to go off and do the great things that Change Catalysts do.